now we have a speaker we are very grateful for. He comes all the way from London. Andy Piper is now the communications director for Mastodon. And right now, we are going through critical times where the social media are changing radically. Decentralized media that has people at core is necessary. So he's going to tell us how the social media are changing, along with Jesús Espíritu Santo.
Diversas y centradas en las personas y líder de comunicación en Mastodon, la red social descentralizada que defiende la privacidad y la libertad de los usuarios. Con más de 20 años de experiencia en empresas como IBM, VMware y Twitter, ha impulsado comunidades globales de desarrolladores y proyectos de código abierto. Andy también participa en iniciativas Maker y colidera el podcast gamesatwork.biz. Su objetivo es claro: tender puentes entre personas, comunidades y tecnología para un futuro digital más humano.
Bueno, pues estamos con Andy Piper.
So we're here with Andy Piper.
Thank you. So nice to see you here in Malaga.
This has been such an incredible couple of days, and this morning already I'm feeling really, really inspired and excited. So.
Really? And probably the weather is better than London.
And the weather is a little better than London. I was in Berlin immediately before this. I was at an event there on Saturday, and the weather was beautiful. I'd never seen Berlin with blue skies before, actually, just because of my travels.
Really?
I'm sure they have them.
Okay. Do you recommend us to go to Berlin?
I came here on Sunday, and I left Berlin in the morning, and I landed here, and it was, yeah, quite a difference.
Okay.
I brought a friend with me. This is my travel Mastodon mascot. We sell a plushie, a peluche, like a big one that you can hug, but it's very big to carry with me. So this is just my little cute friendly.
Let's begin the interview with him. With you? No, doesn't matter. How did you get involved in this project, in Mastodon project? How is your regular day over there in the office? And what is Mastodon? Is just this, or is something more?
So this is a few questions. So let's start off first of all with what is Mastodon, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to be involved.
Perfect. Ready to go.
So Mastodon is a social network, but it's not the same as most of the popular commercial social networks that you know of, because it's not a single thing. It's not a single site that is run by a big tech company in the west coast of America, right? It's open source, it's alternative. Anybody can run their own server of Mastodon, and they can all talk to one another. So we at Mastodon, which is a German-based organization, we run 2 servers, but there are many, many more. There is Mastodon.es, in a Spanish-speaking Mastodon instance for people, and everybody can follow each other. So you end up with an address that looks a little bit like an email address. So my Mastodon address is andypiper@macaw, M-A-C-A-W, like the parrot, .social. That's where I live online. But I can talk to people all over the world. And what it means to be decentralized like this is that nobody can buy it, as happened somewhere that I used to work, can buy it and say, actually, we're changing all the rules and we're firing all the people and we're changing the entire character of the system. We are decentralized. Nobody can own Mastodon. We are like the shepherds of Mastodon. We build it, we share it with the world, other people contribute to it. So that is what it is. And very quickly, how I came involved, is that okay?
For sure. The second
you asked me that too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
My degree is in history. I love people. I love humans. I think we are incredible. We, as a society, have evolved from caves to putting men on the moon and solving diseases, and we did all of that without AI. We are incredible creatures. So I love humans. I think we are amazing. I have hope for our future. I think listening to Goran this morning talking about how Europe has evolved, it gives me hope and excitement. I'm a technologist. I love to build software in the open source movement. I spent my early career working with IBM, 100-year-old company, incredible technology, helped to do some of those things I talked about. And then I was at Twitter for 9 years most recently. Brilliant. People all over the world talking. Loved it. And then things changed. And I came to Mastodon. I care about people. I have some knowledge now that helps me to advise the team. My job there is what we call head of communications, which means that I can do things like this and talk to you and talk about our project, but also send press releases and answer other emails, you know.
Okay, then you love people, everyone, are you sure? We are all very good people or not? But you are expert, I think, you are expert in communities, okay? But what is the meaning of the community right now in social media? What are you doing in Mastodon? Because Salvatore and Goran talk about the companies that we cannot trust.
Yeah.
We can trust in Mastodon, and why we can trust in your company? What is the difference?
That's a great question. And trust is something that needs to be earned and built up, and it, of course, can be lost in a moment. And I worked at Twitter for 9 years, and I loved working there. It was great. It was a very nice environment and culture. And then money was involved. Yeah. And a board decided to accept an offer to buy the company because what I think the language in English is fiduciary responsibility or something annoying like that, right? And it changed everything. And I don't trust what that thing, that's not Twitter anymore, is doing anymore. I think we at Mastodon, there are 15, 20 people part of our team that are building the software and also doing things like this, coming and talking about it and thinking about our policies and things like this. We have to earn your trust. We have to do things openly. Yesterday, for example, we posted a blog post about some features we are going to be adding in the next few months, and we wanted to say, look, this is what we're thinking about doing. You have an opportunity to tell us what you think now. We're listening to you. So I think that is part of the difference. We can have that open conversation with the community. We can't always accept every single opinion. We have to have an opinion of our own and the direction that we move in, but we want to do that in an open way and in a transparent way. Yeah.
Yes, you talk about Twitter, that you was working over there for 9 years, and why is easy to build a community in some tools like Twitter, and it's too difficult to make the same community in decentralized things like Mastodon? Where is the difference?
I think what we might be talking about here is about what we call reach or number of followers. When we say build a community, do we mean building a community like this one where people are here and having genuine human interactions? Or are we talking about broadcast media? Are we talking about, I want to know that I have 6 million people around the world listening just to me because I am so important, right? That's the difference, I think. So when we talk about humanity, and this is my opinion, as I've gone through my career, and I was at this company that talked about this global town square that everybody talked in, except when you come to regulate that conversation between everyone in the entire world, every part of the planet has these different communities and these different cultures, languages, expectations of behavior, political views. What you have to do from a regulatory perspective is to do that at the base level, right? And everybody gets reduced to this single value system. And that's not what humans are, right? We have different communities. So I find that smaller communities, not very small communities necessarily, we can grow big ones, but we can have much more nuanced understanding of each other's values in those smaller groups, and we can apply things like moderation to those smaller groups, but we can still interact with others because we have some common values as people. So building community, I might want to build a community for Mastodon. I was started at the company working on developer relations. I wanted to work with people building technically on Mastodon. So I was approaching that by going out to the people building things with what we call our API, and connecting into Mastodon and asking them what they needed. How could we help? How could we improve our documentation? So I was building that kind of community. And I was doing that really at one-to-one, very often, having those one-to-one conversations. You can also do that by broadcast. I've come to be very cynical about that cult of celebrity that we have grown for ourselves. And I think some platforms, some tools, some things that technology has done in the last 15 or 20 years has been to push us as individuals to believing in celebrity status, right? So I think that is not very helpful, personally, both for people's mental health and for people's values, and for us as a society. I don't exactly think that works.
Yeah. What was the biggest change when Twitter changed to X?
I was so happy when he changed the name. because I left.
Not only to change the name, what was over there, and this change helped Mastodon to grow, or not?
Okay, so I was there throughout that 2020.
And you are happy with the change name?
I was happy with the change name. So I was there throughout 2022 when there was this big debate, is he going to buy it, is he not, he's withdrawn the offer. So I was really hoping, because I really liked being there and I thought we were doing good things. And I liked the people I worked with, of course. And he bought it, and he was in America, and none of us in the UK or anywhere else in Europe heard anything from the company for a week. We were just in the dark. It was horrible. And then we woke up on a Friday morning, and we had an email saying, you're fired.
You're fired.
If you receive this on your work email, then you're still with the company. If you've received it on your personal email, and you're locked out of your work laptop, then you're gone, which is illegal in the European Union, by the way, as a way of... Sure. Anyway. So that was a big change. He didn't change the name until about 6 months later, and he called it X. And I was glad he did it because it drew a line between what that was, what Twitter used to be, and what Twitter was when it was Twitter, and what he was building instead, and putting in his own, of course, his absolute freedom of speech that he believes in, as he commonly tells us, until he bans people. It's a very different place, and I think it's a place that he's invited the worst parts of our species to make their home, and that makes me very sad.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that Mastodon grow?
Mastodon grew, yes, and Mastodon did. We did have a spike immediately. In fact, I'd had an account on Mastodon already because it's open source. I always like to explore all the new things. I have accounts on lots of different platforms, and I'd been using Mastodon a little bit since it started in 2016, or 2018, I think, is when I got my account, maybe. And I started using it more because I could see that I'd need to move my life away from there. So we did see a spike, and we've seen a few spikes. We've seen the election of the current US administration led more people to come and spend some more time on free and open social media, social platforms. They haven't always been sustained usage, and I think part of that is the challenge of being able to move from those big silos of data that got created over the last 15 years. Twitter is one, Facebook others, was of course that they kept the network very close to the company. It's very difficult to take all your friends and followers and say, I'm over here now. You can do that. Mastodon is part of a bigger thing called the Fediverse, We all use the same common technology.
Okay, what is Fediverse?
Yeah.
For the people that don't know what is.
Yeah, so there's a few new words for some people, I expect. So there's two words I'm going to introduce. There's something called ActivityPub, which is what we call a...
ActivityPub in the simple way for...
Yeah, so ActivityPub is what we call
for humans
a
understand.
protocol, right? So it's like
Perfect.
a language, right? We're both talking English right now, and you natively speak Spanish, but we, at the moment, have agreed on English because I can speak English. So ActivityPub is a way of communicating technically between services. So there's one called Mastodon, there's another one called PeerTube, I was talking to Salvatore about yesterday that he uses. There's one called PixelFed, there's many, many of these, and they all have different flavors. So PeerTube is like YouTube, it's for video. What if you could leave comments on YouTube videos when you're signed in with your Facebook account, or something like that? The Fediverse does that. So the Fediverse is what we call the network of all of these different services that have different capabilities. They all talk this language called ActivityPub. That's the very simplest way of describing this.
That's good.
And it also lets these services be independent. So what I was about to mention is I can move my entire network from Mastodon to another platform or between different Mastodon servers. So when to 2022, when I left Twitter, I moved from Mastodon.social, which is a server that Mastodon GmbH runs GmbH in Germany runs, to another one run by a friend of mine that I used to work with at Twitter called McCaw. And when I did that, I just said, my account is here now, and all of my network got notified, and that all came with me. I didn't need to do anything. And that's very powerful. So this technology enables us to make our networks portable. So we have the freedom, we have the choice to do that. Now, when we talk about these things, again, there is some friction. There's friction completely in the big tech world, because if you delete your account, you're done, you're gone. Or they can delete your account. As we were hearing from Sarvan yesterday, when was the last time, you were using a system and then you got banned, or they just switched off your account and you have no longer had any access to it? That's upsetting. That doesn't happen so much in the Fediverse. And you have access and ownership of your data. And it's all based on these open standards, again, that Sarvan and Virginia were talking about yesterday, that are developed through this organization called the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C. So we have these shared systems that are not locked into any company. There is no commercial company that owns them. And I know I'm talking a lot. But the other thing that's very nice about it, very different, and I think this will be an interesting talking point, is because we are not a commercial company, we are not trying to use your data to own your attention to sell ads, right? We have no algorithm. We have no incentive to hold your engagement, hold your attention in our app, right? We don't need to prove that we have millions of users so we can sell to all these retailers who will then shove content into your feed. And it's genuinely the people you follow, the things you've said you are interested in, that's what you're seeing in your feed.
For that, if you don't have a main algorithm,
correct,
how the people can find a cool information, cool things inside Mastodon?
Yeah,
because you don't have that algorithm to manipulate the people.
Exactly. So it is difficult. It can be difficult. If you, again, coming from a space where you've got a network of people, and there are companies that are incentivized to show you more stuff because they can then say to the advertisers, "Give us money." You're going to have stuff to look at, and that leads to this doom scrolling behavior that we see, which is very corrosive. So how do you find that tribe of interesting content and people? It can be some work. You may be able to bring some people, find some people you already know. You can follow me. I'm interesting, obviously. There are tools. So hashtags are very powerful. You can follow hashtags in Mastodon, which is not something that is so common elsewhere. You can, of course, look at a hashtag on other platforms, but if you follow a hashtag in Mastodon, you will start to see posts from other people who use that hashtag. Couple of good Mastodon hashtags. There's one called Silent Sunday, which is really nice. Just a photograph gets shared on a Sunday by some people, which is just a nice, peaceful way to end the week. There's also cats of Mastodon and dogs of Mastodon, which is always fun, right? People love little floppy things, and that's cute. So those are good ways to find it. Yesterday, we posted an announcement that said we are going to introduce something similar to what Blue Sky built, which is this idea of starter packs. So I can say, I met these really cool people at Empedera Live in Malaga, so I'd like to add 10 of them to my list of cool people, and then I can share that list with others to help them to grow. So we can do a few things. There are ways to help you to find interesting topics, and there are some other third-party tools that aggregate that information.
Okay, we can find different topics in social media,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them, probably next, we can find a lot of disinformation, misinformation, you know, and how does Mastodon's control these fake news, or what are you doing in this aspect? Yesterday we talked about this in the Smart Vote, and we are really wants to know in Mastodon what's happened about this.
Yeah, disinformation and moderation as well are very complicated, much more complicated than they are in centralized platforms. Because in centralized platforms, let's say a government, an organization has a company that they can call and say, hey, and regulate. This is not allowed, we will fine you. And when I was at Twitter, we had connections with the other big tech companies, so if there was a particular campaign that was identified, it was relatively easy, but still complicated, to say we can see that this network is generating this inauthentic content, so let's work together to shut it down. And because Mastodon and the Fediverse is over 8,000 servers run by organizations like ours or by individuals, there's a lot more coordination to do. So there are some tools that you get as an owner of a Mastodon server to let you both block individuals and also block entire segments of the network, so entire servers. So if you were to stand up a Mastodon server with bad intent, just to want to flood the network with bad information using fake accounts, then that would be quite rapidly identified, and that would be blocked by the rest of the network. So we do need to do more collaboration, and it being humans, and humans having different opinions, and it being a very distributed network, that can be challenging. Again, I have hope in humans, and I believe that we can do this. It is challenging, though.
Okay, I saw Mastodon and journalists, and I think Mastodon needs more journalists and news companies over there. What is the reason that you give to the journalists and news companies to join Mastodon?
That is an excellent question. So news organizations and journalists, we actually were at the International Journalism Festival in Perugia this year. We'll be there again, I think, next year. We also agree with you that authentic, well-informed voices, journalists, need to be in these spaces. And one of the most important reasons for joining an open platform like Mastodon is that you cannot be switched off by a billionaire who disagrees with your view of the world or who wants to promote their own angle, right? We were hearing about TikTok in the last session. Mr. Ellison now owns a big chunk of TikTok, right? So no doubt that will start to, although there were concerns about the direction that was going and what information was flowing through there, that's now effectively state-owned media, some may argue, in America, right? So you can own your own voice on the platform. Your organization, your news organization, if they wanted, could have their own Mastodon server and then verify their own journalists without relying on paying money to a billionaire to say, no, these are real journalists. We just announced a few weeks ago that we as an organization, we are a non-profit in Germany. We will help organizations to run their own servers. We'll either fully host them or we will just do some technical support. Because we want more servers, we believe that we need more diverse servers, we need more of them around. And a lot of organizations felt nervous about running them themselves. So we can help there if that's what they want. But there are also other organizations that can help you to do that. One challenge for journalists is this discussion I joked about, I made fun of, but it is a serious thing when it comes to news, because I made fun of this idea of broadcast and like the audience. And you do want, as a journalist, you want to know that your stories are being seen, that your voices are being heard, that you're getting the eyeballs onto your articles, and that is hard because we don't track you.
No.
And I think actually this whole space in Europe especially is a very challenging discussion because we talk about GDPR and DSA, DMA and other things, and generally speaking we talk about user privacy, but you talk to the European Commission and other organizations and they still also want reach. So what's the answer here? Do we let everybody have personal privacy? Or do we constantly track everybody's clicks so that we can report them to whichever organization, whether it's big tech who are evil or government who are good? We need to come to some agreement in that space. What I'm saying is it's hard for you to get those metrics as a journalist. What we do have technically is the ability now for newspapers, journals to get the number of clicks, but they won't necessarily find out which IP address, which individual user is seeing their stories.
Okay, perfect. Let's see some question from the audience. Over there.
Couple over here.
1, 2.
Yeah.
And
questions.
Hello, here.
yeah, let's go.
Well, first of all, maybe you have seen my dog, because I am one of the Dog of Mastodon users. And also I would like to say to everyone to at least try any of the Fediverse platforms, because for whatever that you usually use, like Reddit, YouTube, or everything, there is an alternative, and like I always support those movements.
Great.
I would like to ask, because I know that there are some, let's say, powers that try to fight against this movement, the Fediverse. How do Mastodon or the Fediverse fight against that, against that pressure from the big companies?
How do we fight against the pressure from the big companies? I mean, I think it's really interesting because the Fediverse is a lot of different apps and services and people that build those apps. You just mentioned some of the alternatives to things like Reddit. There's like 3 or 4 different alternatives to a platform like Reddit. There's an event going on right now called Fedi Forum. It's online. It happened yesterday, and then it will happen today, and it's in the evening European time, which is a bit challenging. But we do try to come together to build things together and figure out how to have those conversations about how to encourage more people to join. The better platforms, the open platforms. How do we fight back, though? I think it's really. Look, I'm head of communications for Mastodon, and I clearly want Mastodon to be successful. I want the Fediverse to be successful. I want people to have agency. We talked about this in our workshop on Monday before this event. I was running a table at that where we were doing the declaration work about agency around sovereignty, digital citizen sovereignty. I think that's important. I think people need to make those choices, and we need to have those conversations increasingly. And we can do it as platforms, and Mastodon is in a position where we are somewhat unique because we are probably bigger than most of the others. So we have a bit more opportunity to come and sit on couches like this and do these events. But we just need to keep getting out there and doing it, and highlighting what's wrong with those other platforms, but not just sitting there and saying, that's bad, you shouldn't use it, it's awful, your data's being used by AI and being sold, and, there's a point at which that just becomes tiring and people switch off. People just go, just stop telling me I'm doing the wrong thing, We need to show them what's better. We need to say, look, there is better, you can have more real human connections in these open spaces, and as technology evolves, as it always will, you can take that with you. Because it's based on open standards.
Okay, perfect. Let's go with Virginia and Finis.
You mentioned at the beginning of your talk that decentralized social networks means that people are going to spend time in smaller communities, which I think is great. My question is, how do you think, because this means also that people are going to spend time with people that already kind of share their worldview.
Yes.
So with the people whose opinions they already know and
yes.
like. And you mentioned there are some ways to discover new content like hashtags and stuff, but that doesn't really fix the problem because of the bubble, that
Yeah, the filter
being in a
bubble.
bubble,
Yeah.
because you have to know what you're looking for in order to find it.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you think there's value in, like there's some value in the centralized platforms exposing people to like a more global discourse, and how can decentralized networks, social networks, fix that or tackle that to prevent those bubbles from forming?
Yeah, so filter bubbles, and I think that was a debate that started probably 10 or 15 years ago about social media and filter bubbles, and I think right now we live in a world which is increasingly seemingly polarized, which is really sad to me and worrying. But events like this bring people together to have diverse conversations. You ask a great question. I think one thing that I like about Mastodon is, and the Fediverse, is that it is an open API, so people can build new experiences more easily than they used to be able to. Well, they were able to easily on Twitter at the beginning before they shut their API, closed their API up a little bit, and then completely closed it more recently. So the Web 2.0 kind of phase when you could build these mashups and show interesting data in different ways, and then we did kind of converge into these communities. I think yes, I could join a community on Mastodon of Star Trek enthusiasts and only follow hashtags related to sci-fi, and then I would never see anything about, I don't know, fantasy or photography or whatever else. And I might be missing out. I'm avoiding politics conversations for reasons. How can we broaden that discourse? I think part of it is an education thing. People need to be encouraged to make their own choices, and I think that was another thing that Goran was talking about this morning, about people having agency to make their own choices, and they need to then the education can come as part of that. I don't have an answer. I don't think there's a solution baked in. This is as much a human problem as it is a technology one.
Okay, then to finish, can we trust Mastodon?
Look, again, I think judges by what we do.
Yes
So,
or not?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, please.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks.